Sellout crowds once filled Baltimore's Memorial Stadium to witness a football legend named Unitas. But today's Colts no longer live in the shadow of those great Baltimore teams of the past, for the Unitas era has passed the torch to a shaggy-haired 25-year-old named Burt Jones, and the flame of greatness has not been extinguished. Many think of Jones as pro football's next great quarterback, and that he seems to be. The fourth-year pro leads the NFL in passing, while his offense has gained more yardage and scored more points than any team in football. By any standards, Jones has not disappointed. A super talent needs a strong supporting cast, and Baltimore is well endowed, with young veterans like Roger Carr, a man whose football idol is former Colt great Raymond Berry. But the Colts aren't the only NFL team possessed of budding young stars. New England Patriot tight end Russ Francis is one of several fine young offensive talents belonging to that team. Then there's fullback Sam Cunningham, as well as nifty A.J. Johnson. And there's quarterback Steve Grogan, a second-year pro whose strong arm and all-around leadership have put the surprising New Englanders in contention for a playoff berth. New England's youngsters appear perhaps a year or so behind the flowering Colts. But with Miami on the wane, the Colts and the Patriots figure to play one or two important games in the years ahead. And today's game is one of them. The Patriots remain within striking distance of Ted Marchibroda's team, and the second-year mentor must keep a watchful eye lest his two-game Eastern Division lead evaporate. Today, New England would like to ring Baltimore's bell, for a victory would advance the Patriots' playoff hopes one step closer to reality. New England and Baltimore, the NFL Game of the Week. Baltimore's offensive arsenal includes the AFC's leading rusher in Lydell Mitchell, a workhorse halfback whose versatility makes him an integral component in Baltimore's multifaceted attack. Mitchell picked up 12 yards on this pop, but Baltimore's ground attack does not stop there. At 6'3" and 212 pounds, Burt Jones carries the bulk of many NFL running backs, and he doesn't hesitate to carry the ball. On Baltimore's first possession, Jones and Mitchell move the ball to New England's 22. The rest belong to speedster Roger Carr. Carr averages slightly more than 1.7 miles per reception. The Jones to Carr connection has become one of football's deadliest. Against New England, it accounted for the game's first points. But the Patriot offense would not be outdone. On their next possession, Steve Grogan initiated his methodical assault. Sam Cunningham carried this screen pass out near midfield, from which point Grogan sent guard John Hanna out to blaze a trail for A.J. Johnson. The little publicized Johnson has been a pleasant surprise to the Patriots. In the first half, he averaged 5 yards every time he touched the ball, both as a runner and as a receiver. But the man who keeps defenders off balance is Grogan. For a big man, Grogan is highly mobile, and his extemporaneous style forces defenses to commit, opening up other possibilities. Grogan's scrambling set up this dump pass to tight end Russ Francis. 3 plays later, Grogan again rolled, forcing defenders to commit, allowing reserve tight end Al Chandler to get lost in a crowd. Chandler's touchdown knotted the score at 7. The score also inspired the defenders of patriotism, who closed out period 1 with muskets smoking. But Burt Jones slows down active linebackers with tosses into the flat. On the opening play of period 2, Jones executed with Don McCauley for a big first down. With an assortment of offensive threats at his disposal, Burt Jones can overlook Roger Carr for a series or perhaps an entire quarter, just long enough for secondaries to become lackadaisical. Then Jones pushes the Carr touchdown button. Unfortunately for the Colts, Carr's apparent touchdown was only that, apparent, where Roger failed to get both feet down in the end zone. Momentum changed as a result, and the AFC's second-best ground game started flexing its muscles. Number 44 is reserve running back Don Calhoun. Subbing for an injured Sam Cunningham, Calhoun reeled off 84 first-half yards, including the longest run of the day. "54 yards later, the Patriots were in scoring position. A running back's perspective reveals the enormous hole that the Patriot front opened for Calhoun through Baltimore's well-respected defense. Dedicated line blocking provides the key to a ground game success. Leon Gray, John Hanna, and the rest of New England's much improved offensive wall have been earning large measures of respect, and rightly so. Brogan's keeper put New England back in the lead. With a 7-point advantage, New England shut down the Colt attack and forced a punt, an opportunity for New England's first-round pick to showcase his skills. This was not rookie cornerback Mike Haynes' first punt return for a touchdown this season. In fact, this wasn't a punt return for a touchdown, for somewhere along the way, Mike's shoe hit the chalk line. The misfortune took some steam out of the Patriot attack. Meanwhile, the Colts couldn't build any steam as time and again the Patriots foiled Lydell Mitchell for little or no yardage. But by now, the Patriots secondary once again had forgotten all about Roger Carr. Needing a big play to arouse his lethargic Colts, Burt Jones fired the cannon. Nothing fancy about this play. Carr's speed simply left Mike Haynes wishing he'd taken up some other line of work. A replay shows a perfectly thrown ball and a wide-open receiver. From the 5, Don McCauley burrowed into the end zone. For McCauley, his 10th touchdown of the season. And though Mike Haynes disagreed, the score once again stood tied. But the following kickoff served notice that the half was far from over. Doug Beaudoin exploded through his interference to the Colt 45. From there, Grogan picked out his favorite big play receiver as New England rallied to beat the clock. Russ Francis pulled a muscle on this play, but the 33 yards he covered set up the go-ahead and eventual winning touchdown. A replay shows that Grogan sent number 82, Steve Burks, deep to clear that side of the field. Grogan then threw underneath coverage to a wide-open Francis, who carried inside the Colt 10. But New England's offense sputtered. Enter kicker John Smith for an easy field goal attempt. In his exuberance, number 47 Tim Baylor blasted the English-born kicker, granting the Patriot offense a reprieve at the Colt 4-yard line. Here again, Grogan's maneuverability proved the difference as New England recaptured the lead. Grogan's 3-yard sprint came with only 26 seconds remaining in the half. Baltimore had rallied to tie the score, only to see the Patriots navigate the length of the field in just over 2 minutes. The high and mighty seemed somewhat stunned. The New England Patriots came out for the second half, keenly aware that a 7-point lead was a threadbare margin against a team so potentially devastating as the Baltimore Colts. With both Russ Francis and Sam Cunningham out with injuries, the burden of victory fell to a defense that, despite its bicentennial colors, seemed pale in comparison with the NFC's top-ranked offense. On the other hand, Baltimore head coach Ted Marchibroda fretted over his team's inability to run against New England's 3-4 defense, and his concern was borne out in the final 30 minutes as the gang-tackling Patriots shut down his Colts cold. You are supposed to be able to beat the 3-4 up the middle, but it was here that New England was toughest, as every yard Baltimore gained came more grudging than the last. New England's offense, on the other hand, was content to sit on the ball, bide its time, wait for a break, and eat up the clock. This strategy on the surface did not appear sound in light of Baltimore's capacity to deny points and score them very quickly. Setback Don Calhoun proved more than an able stand-in for Sam Cunningham. Number 44 was a valued outlet receiver, and in addition picked up 141 yards rushing. Quarterback Steve Grogan passed sparingly and achieved modest results. Grogan refused to succumb to the temptation of throwing the bomb, and with a game plan watered down to the basics, his offense drowned and failed to score a point in the second half. Amazingly, the failure of New England to generate a touchdown, or at the very least a field goal, did not hurt them. Without Cunningham or Francis, the Patriot offense retreated into a shell. Like an armadillo, they couldn't be hurt or harm anyone else. What this strategy did was place an enormous responsibility on the defense. Critics have called the 3-4 a dog defense. But as Chuck Fairbanks said, our guys have finally learned the difference between come here and sick 'em. What New England did do was hound Roger Carr, number 81, and Glenn Doughty, number 35, the Colts' game-breaking wide receivers. They were so effectively taken out of the offense that Burt Jones became a mirror for Colt frustration. In the second half, the Patriots held Baltimore to 2 first downs, limited Lydell Mitchell to 26 yards, and effectively bottled up the lightning of Roger Carr. Carr came into the game with an astounding 27 yards per catch, a figure that would turn any cornerback's head. Most of the day, number 81 went head-to-head with rookie Mike Haynes from Arizona State. Haynes, number 40, was the Patriots' first draft choice, and their trust in his abilities was reflected by the blanket he placed on the skills of Roger Carr. Twice Haynes intercepted home runs by Jones intended for number 81. Both times Carr appeared to have outrun the secondary, but both times the long-legged cornerback outran the ball and ran the Patriots out of deep trouble. Time after time, the opportunistic Patriots choked off the most versatile and highest-scoring offense in the NFL. Late in the last quarter, there seemed a reluctant admission by a despondent Ted Marchibroda that Baltimore was nearing their second defeat of the season. Another surprising aspect of New England's dominance was their ability to seep through the Colts' offensive line and pressure Burt Jones. New England, never noted for their pass rush, employed the seldom used talents of reserve linebacker Pete Barnes, number 59. Barnes, subbing for regular Steve Nelson, sacked Jones 3 times, and by game's end, the pocket had turned into a shambles, a disaster area that marked the spot where the Colt offense died. The Patriots and Colts played a scoreless tie in the final 30 minutes, and New England won a crucial 21-14 victory. The heroics of Pete Barnes not only kept a wild card berth alive, but a divisional title in the AFC East as well.